So obviously the first thing to do when you're in a situation is to look at it and see where the truth is. Is there something in here that pertains to me?
A lot of people say that the key to a happy life is to not take everything so personally. So you guys are experts. What do you think?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because the reality is we are quick to say, you know, it's not me, it's you. And then that's not taking any personal responsibility or accountability for our own actions. And yet, what I find is so important in relationships is to realize that, you know, we are made up of lots of different layers, and lots of different influences have impacted who we are. And so sometimes what happens within couples is that, you know, what's going on for, let's say, John, for example, is really a lot of his own stuff that's bubbling up. And so he may then start behaving in ways towards me that really have nothing to do with me. I just happen to be the receptacle of his, I'll say, verbal vomit. Okay? And so, you know, that's where it's important to realize that we get biologically triggered, again, those mirror neurons. And, you know, if you're looking at me angrily, I'm going to start, oh, you know, that fear factor starts generating, that flight, fight. And again, oftentimes it's not necessarily towards me. I just happen to be there. And so then that gets back to understanding what those triggers are and how can we manage and navigate through this relationship differently.
So it's ultimately about taking personal responsibility. It's about identifying what's mine and what's yours. And so when you have that centeredness and connectedness within yourself, then you can look at what's happening with someone else and know that it doesn't apply to you. So obviously the first thing to do when you're in a situation is to look at it and see where the truth is. Is there something in here that pertains to me? If not, then let it go. Otherwise, take a look at it and deal with it.
We struggled with that question for a long, long time, I think thousands of years. I think the Buddha referred to it more to reactivity. So that would be a term, that we are very reactive when we're triggered. And what is triggered is often, of course, our own defensive system. And so in some way, when you're in a relationship, it's very, very personal. So if your partner attacks you or criticizes you, of course it's personal. So it's this ability we have to develop, that we have to say, have a kind of a dual processing or dual vision. I don't know any other way out. Couples come in, for example, and the most difficult thing is it's hot and you feel misunderstood. You feel you want to be right. And both defensive systems are interacting. You're in absolute gridlock and nobody has the capacity to step out. What to do in this situation. So this is the hardest situation. And this is the situation that we have to take it then artificially slow it down and do it sequentially. So one partner has to go first to say, okay, I'm going to make it about you. And it's amazing what happens when we have this feeling that our partner can just make it for 2-3 minutes about oneself, right? And then it creates generosity and a capacity again. The brain, the frontal orbital cortex can recover, and then you can make it about the other partner. And then we have moves again, the stuckness fades.
So as I began to understand women, I realized that the only time I go in the fight or flight with my wife is when I think she's not going to love me. So one day, as a therapist, I'm a very good listener. So I was listening to my wife. I said, I'm going to do everything I do in therapy to my wife. So she was upset about things. So I started saying, tell me more and help me understand that better. And so what you're saying is this, is that correct? She said, no, that's not correct. I said, okay, well, help me understand better because I really want to understand. So this went on for an hour. And basically, because it was personal, as opposed to one of my clients, for every complaint she had, I had a little complaint over here, a little complaint over here. Complaint. It was building up inside, but I could separate myself from that, building up, building up, building up. And then I said, after she was done, I said, do you need to say anything more? She says, no, I feel completely heard. It was like a miraculous thing for her. And I said, so would this be a good time for me to tell you how I feel? And she said, no. Wise woman.
Right.
And so I said, well, when would be a good time for me to tell you? And she said, I don't know. I just want to bask in the sunshine of your love. And that was a big message for me. What? You feel love now? I'm ready to be prosecuting attorney and invalidate every argument you've got there. But And I said, okay, well, I'll wait. And so then she went into the kitchen and started making this dinner, my favorite dinner. She said, I think I'm going to make chicken and mashed potatoes and peas. And I thought, wow, she really does love me more now. And literally I watched her, just sat there watching her, and she was singing. And I felt like I was in a Disney movie with little bluebirds going around and my happy wife in the kitchen. So I have to say my stress level started going down a little bit. I was still rather upset. I had all this big list of things. Then that night, I'll make this story short, we made love. And then the next morning, she nudged up against me and she said, you know, this would be a good time if you want to tell me how you feel. And I thought to myself, I cannot remember anything I have to tell her. And that's what I really realized inside myself, and I think inside of every man, we get in that fight or flight place with our wives because we don't trust that they're going to come back to love. And we have no idea that simply listening to a woman, giving her space to express herself will bring her back to that place.
The bottom line here is that it can't possibly all be your fault. So taking everything personally is a bit of a fool's game. If something's going on in your relationship or in your life and you feel like it's your fault, look at it, see what the truth is. And if it's not, let it go. And if you can't do that, ask one of these fine people. They've got a lot of help they could offer you.